The Governor of Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke, is demanding that the federal government releases Osun's withheld local government allocations. This follows a bold report by the Nigerian Bar Association, which declared the withholding of funds unconstitutional and unlawful. The NBA President Mazi Afam Osigwe SAN and General Secretary Bobolaji Ojibara, in a signed letter, stressed that the president had no powers to suspend or withhold local government funds.
Reacting to interventions by the NBA, the Council of Obas in Osun and other civic groups, Adeleke praised the courage in standing up for the truth and the rule of law. Governor Adeleke welcomed the NBA's clarification that his administration was not responsible for the removal of the All Progressive Congress Council chairman in 2022, noting that it was a court of law that ordered their sack. After their sack in 2022, the APC chairman filed for stay of execution, which the court denied. I was not in any way responsible for their sack. The NBA's findings has authenticated this reality, he said. Now, join us this morning on Breakfast Central to break down this discussion is legal practitioner and former special advisor and media to the former governor of Osun State, Barrister Yomi Moses Obaditan. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. Great to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's start with the NBA report, which states that there is no legal basis for the continued withholding of Osun's local government allocations. From a constitutional standpoint, and being a lawyer yourself, how binding is this report, and what weight does it carry in compelling the federal government to act?
Thank you very much. What the NBA has said is constitutional in nature and in act. What the federal government has done is a violation of constitutional provision. If you look at the Section 7 of the Nigerian Constitution and Section 162 of the same 1999 Constitution, give the states, the local government, the authority to have access to their fund. Not only that, we have judicial authority. Then what I mean that's what I mean what we call antecedent or what has happened in the past. For example, there's a celebrated case of AG Lagos State versus AG Federation, 2004, in which the present president was the governor in Lagos State. Due to the creation of the LCDA, the then Obasanjo administration withheld allocation to the Lagos State LGA. And they went to court, and the Supreme Court said the president has no power to do such a thing. And even in recent time, you also notice what happens in the case between Osun. From the onset, there's this case between the federal, between the PDP, APC, APP, in which the Federal High Court, nullify the election conducted in 2022. And from this one, even the APC themselves and one other party went to the Court of Appeal. However, they abandoned their case. But when the Osun, the new president government now decide to conduct election this year, they woke up and went back to the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal, in their own wisdom, said, you initiated this one, but you went to go and sleep. And you did not even give what we called, the backup. That means the proceeding, the records of the lower court were not brought. And so that case was described as an academic exercise, fruitless, and was thrown out. And then the PDP administration in Osun State went ahead in February to conduct local government election. So these are some of those things that have affirmed that the Adeleke administration has rights entitled to the licit money legitimately. So whatever is being done today to hinder them from having it is to create a sort of dangerous precedent, in the sense that it undermines democracy, it erodes public confidence in the institutions, and encourage lawlessness. So if you look at what I've stated so far, then you can be better in a position to assess the MBA position. The MBA position, the MBA are not for PDP, they are not for APC, they are a neutral body. In fact, they are, you call them, not even call them, they are priests in the temple of justice. So if the MBA now come and say, you have forgotten that there were new councillor and chairmen elected in February 2025. So legally, they are the one who are entitled to the administration of the LGA, and they are also at the same time entitled to the funds meant for them. So if there is another person who is claiming that one, is simply creating a state of anarchy. Not only that, the MBA in their own wisdom said, look, I won't look at the previous court judgment and many things, they are ready.
All right. You just spoke about the council chairman, and I want us to speak about that, but let's go on a break. When we come back, I'll ask you about that. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're talking to the former special advisor on media to former Governor of Osun, Yomi Moses Obaditan Esqr. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Before we went on the break, you had spoken about council chairman, but let's also make reference to something else that the NBA had said. The NBA also clarified that the sack of APC council chairman in 2022 was a judicial decision, not a political one by Governor Adeleke. Yet the federal government continues to withhold funds. Would you say that this is a case of executive overreach, or is there a legal loophole that maybe is being exploited here?
If you look at the way we behave in Nigeria, quite often the government at the center always want to shrink the other lower government, or maybe we call it the state government, who does not belong to their party. The NBA said in 2022, before proceeding to the election, which is a general knowledge, people are aware of that fact, that they are supposed to give a particular number of days before the election. Instead of giving at least 90 days notice, they gave only a month or two. And the other people went to stop the election, but the election was held. And then they now proceed to Federal High Court and said, look, this election was not constitutionally conducted. It was an illegality. And the Federal High Court ruled against it. And then the party in power then, the APC, went to the Court of Appeal. And that's what I've said, they went there, but they did not continue. But now they saw a new sheriff in town, a new political party. They now say, okay, at least we have a court, and they proceeded and said, well, why did you equity only back those who pursue it, but you abandon it. Now that you have come, apart from the time not on your side, you did not fulfill, there was no record of proceeding at the lower court, and as a result, that case was struck out. So in an ideal situation, or in other clime, what the federal government and the opposition now, which is APC, ought to do is to obey, because they knew that they have been told by the court that they are on a wrong journey. So instead of reversing back and then wait for another opportunity, maybe when the election will come up in 2026, if they are able to win, then they can have it. But no, they just felt we have the Godfather, we have the federal government. And you remember, this has been the story all over. Once the power that be, they have the quasi forces, they have the police, the EFCC, the DSS, and the army. And if you decide to go, and it actually happened. As soon as these people were, they won the election in February and they want to resume, there was reactions, and many lives were lost. And for the governor, being a peaceful individual who does not believe in that kind of situation, he doesn't want to govern over dead but over the living. Now it's okay, stay in your house. Let's see how do we approach this one. And so, as the governor was approaching it legally, he also doing it politically, appealing to those that matters and say, look, we are now the people who are supposed to be legally in the local government. And not only that, the government, instead of listening, those who know better, for example, the Attorney General of the Federation, who have been a very, very mature, who have been very, honest in his dealing in time past, and when he became, and people were celebrating him, and only for him to not even the eve of election sending, message across and said that election should not take place. The IG2 was saying the same thing. They say, look, AG, you can only be AG of the Federation. You cannot, the federal government does not have power over the local government. So after the election, the same AG was also alleged to have instructed the central bank not to release the allocation. And even at a point in time, we were able to that the allocation was to be released to the APC. Then the question is APC in power? Because no politician can collect that money. It has to be the administrator within the local government. And if they are administrator today, they are under the PDP. So to me, I see it as extension of political thuggery.
Okay.
Backed up by the state power, which ought not to be so in a democratic system.
Now, so Obaditan, extension of political thuggery, you say. You're resident in Osun State, and the local government is the closest arm of government to the people. We do know its importance as the closest to the people. But let's talk about the implications of this withholding of local government funds. If the federal government continues to withhold these allocations despite court rulings and NBA findings, what precedent does this set for other states, and what are the real-life implications on the residents of Osun State with this continued withholding of the local government funds by the federal government? What real-life implications do we have, or have we seen?
If the federal government continue to withhold the allocation, it shows that they have deviated from the rule of law. The rule of law, nobody's above the law. Once the court have ruled, except a higher court say otherwise, that is become a law itself. And so for the federal government to do that, it shows that they have decided to breach the law they swear to uphold. Not only that, they also have other, authority. A plethora of cases that have happened with, like Lagos State, which I say is a celebrated one in 2004, and ironica, very painful, that it is the then who was the victim who is now the oppressor. Because Bola Ahmed Tinubu was celebrated for having the courage to challenge the Obasanjo regime and won, and the allocation were restored. So if it could be done then, and now they are not doing the same, people will feel like, oh God, this thing is not supposed to be so. And if we continue like that, they were sending a dangerous precedent. Other people will do it. And in the time in which people, take the judgment that favor them and reject the one that favor, will not help democratic system. And not only that, in the process of trying to say, maybe you are dealing with the government in Osun, you are also oppressing the people. Because like Radley said, the local government is the government closer to the people. They are for the grassroots. And if those people in the grassroots do not have resources to carry out their day-to-day administration, those workers cannot be paid, the primary school teacher fund are not released, then even the traditional rulers, because they are supposed to take 2% of the allocation coming to the local government, they are not, even some of them are even crying that we do not have money. So by implication, we are simply, oppressing instead of making the people to see the democratic dividend. So the government is not only against the party in power here, it's against the people. And in another clime where, election or voting counts, it could be counterproductive to the federal government, because the people will feel that is the federal government, the oppressor, that deny resources, so they are not likely to vote for them. But here in a country that nobody, somebody said it in the 60s, either you vote for all, do not vote for all, we will win. So in this type of situation, that is what gives them that go. But then we cannot continue like this. Just as the state governor and his artillery are trying to see the way out, the NBA coming has been a very soothing balm in the political wound that's already created in the state. So if the NBA said, look, we have the right of arbitration to liaise with the people who are concerned, the stakeholders. If we're able to exploit this peaceful approach, and if we succeed, fine. But if, on the other hand, the federal governments and the allies continue in this manner, we have no option than to go to court. Because in everything, in a democratic system, you don't take laws into your hand. you approach the court. And that is why I see it as a beautiful ban. And it's something that's timely and is a welcome development.
Now, we've also seen the governor of Osun State, Governor Adeleke. He did visit President Tinubu a short while ago, and I'm sure they spoke about some of these things, because in the aftermath of his visit to Mr. President, he came out openly to say, look, the PDP in Osun State is going to support the re-election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027, even though he belongs to a different party. Making these concessions and all the underground politicking that has been going on, don't you think the local government funds, the funds should have been released by now? Because looking at alternative means, since the government isn't listening to the courts, maybe through political means, it could prevail on the president to give the instructions so that these funds can be released, knowing that the president also has been in this sort of situation before under the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo. What do you make of the politicking in Osun State with regards to this local government withheld funds?
I was once in a faculty at the University of Ibadan. The motto of that faculty is "Politics is living," that political science department. And so for the governor to have approached the president, visiting him, urging him, and pleading, it's part of politics. Because, you know, it's not every time that you go into trenches. But I think since war began in the heart of men, it is the heart of men that peace must be sought. And that's what the governor have done. Beautiful. So having done that, and coming back, the former governor of the state, Ola told us that the governor was under pressure. And what pressure was it? Join us, come to our party, we will do this for you. And then, you know, at a point in time, the pressure was so high that the governor was almost, you know, moving from his party to join the opposition. However, he studied the ground and realized it's like jumping from the rock to the ditch. And so they have to take it easy. Since the APC member I regarded him as a welcome visitor, so he has to pause. So what the government, I think we should appreciate the man, not a violent. I was in a discussion less than 48 hours. I said, assuming Wike is the governor in Osun State, you know, the story will be different because he doesn't believe in all these, you know, pleading and breaking. It could have been fire for fire, but then a lot of life will be lost, property will be destroyed. But and I think by now, as an experienced politician, I'm talking to the president now, and somebody who even hailed, it is, you know, the evidence are there. He has cousin in Osun State, so he should be more interested in the governance, in the life and the development of the state than in the political aspect. And that is why he should use his past experience as somebody who was once a victim under Obasanjo to now see what this governor is going through and the appeal he has even made to him, and see how he could, you know, politically see it as an expedient that ought to be done, and then see it as a father of all. He said, when you become the president, you are not president. That's what the court said. You are not a president of APC or PDP. You are not president of Nigeria. He's number one citizen. He's the father of all. So that is why we expect, if he's listening to us or anything, he should please look at that area. Because whatever we do today, like Shakespeare says, we are both actors and actresses. And we are all in a stage. And one day, we will cease to be on that stage and our time will have gone. So before he ceases to be president, he should please do the needful. We are not asking him to do illegality. We are simply saying comply with this, you know, the court's ruling. Comply with the constitutional provision so that it will be said of him that while he was here, he do it the way it ought to be done. But if he insists, the record will also be there that he violated the law. And lucky enough, the NBA are gradually telling us that if we explore the peaceful means, the arbitration aspect, if it fails, they will go to court. And that will not be a very easy one. The people will still be suffering. The money will not be there. Those who are supposed to pay will not be there. and then development will be, stagnated. So that's why I'm asking for the urgency.
All right.
You have an adage. Say when you use the right hand to beat a child, you use the left hand to bring him to yourself.
Just to quickly mention, I mean, we're out of time, but you've made your appeal to the federal government on what needs to be done. Should the federal government refuse to listen, what legal alternatives exist?
The NBA has said it, and I'm sure the governor too is ready. The reason why I think he's trying to take it easy was because the election is approaching next year. If you approach it combatantly, or we put it in fire for fire, like Nigeria used to say it, the next election may be very bloody. And so for the next approach, after peaceful means has not yielded fruit, is the court. Both the MB and the state, we have no option than to pursue, because they have the law, they have precedent to back them up. So, and the door of the court is always open. So, and that's why we felt it is better to judge than to war. And I think the state, they are listening. The MBA too are also there. So, and I think we have developed. This is the 26th year of non-broken democracy. Mm-hmm. So we ought to have learned from our past mistake. So if we have learned, we ought not to be in this place again. Constitutionally, the federal government or their agent has no right to withhold allocation. And politically, it is traumatic. It is it's like going through punishment on things that ought not to be. And two, we are sending a dangerous precedent. So that is why I think the next option, when peaceful approach fail, is to go to court.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll continue to follow up with Osun State and see what the next steps are from the presidency as well as from the state government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.